Yo, YouTube, what's up with your boy? Sports and Fitness Rants. I'm back, guys. Click that like button. Subscribe to my channel. What's up, y'all? Welcome back, guys. Welcome back, man. Got another great video for you guys today, as usual, man. You guys know the deal on this channel. It's all about setting the record straight, stopping the lies, stopping the narratives, stopping them from rewriting history, guys. And in this video, I want to talk about some comments that Steve Kerr made in relation to Steph Curry being the most skilled player in NBA's history, guys. That's right. After the game last night, Steph Curry scored 40 points. Great for Steph Curry, man. He's a great player. And Steve Kerr, once again, jumps out the window because this is what these guys do, man. They must always be hyperbolic with these statements. They can never just keep it to the era. He has to say all time, and he came in the post-game press conference, and once again, he loves to just talk up Steph Curry. He lives in the moment, Steve Kerr, and this is why I don't agree with a lot of things that he says. He's not thinking rationally. There's no evidence, once again, to support Steph Curry being the most skilled player in NBA's history, guys. And it's not a knock on Steph Curry, but I have to set the record straight on Steve Kerr, because like I said, these statements make no sense. There's nothing to support that statement, and we're going to talk about this video. And I want to thank you guys, everyone across the world, everyone across the states has been supporting my channel. Once again, guys, I am truly, truly humbled by all the support, man. It really means a lot. Shout out to all the true basketball fans that continue to stand up to support my channel. Like I said, shout out to everybody in the membership. Thank you guys for the emails and, like I said, the donations to my channel. You guys know I don't solicit for money on this channel. So anyone that's donated to my channel is truly humbling, guys. Thank you. And you guys know what to do. Turn the volume all the way up. Hit that play button. Remember, these videos are for educational purposes. And let's roll. So, yes, guys, like I said, man, Steve Kerr jumped out the window in the post-game press conference last night, man. That's what these guys always do, man. They just jump off a cliff and they say crazy, they just make crazy statements. And once again, they can never back up their statements with any kind of factual evidence. And once again, it's an emotional statement from Steve Kerr. He's all emotional. Steph Curry scored 40 points. He had a 50-something point game a couple of nights before. The Warriors are all of a sudden on like a nice little winning streak here, or they won a decent amount of games in their last, 10 or so, whatever. They've been playing good basketball since the Jimmy Butler trade. I think that they have. They've been playing a lot better. Once again, the Golden State Warriors have been inconsistent this season. They started off the season like, they 10-2 at the beginning of the year, and then they just completely fell off, and now they seem to be on another little run again here. So once again, they've been up and down. We get it. Draymond Green's inconsistent. Klay Thompson is not there this year. You know, Andrew Wiggins is up and down, in and out of the lineup, these guys. You know, Steph Curry's been in and out of the lineup this year. How many games Steph Curry missed this year? He's missed a good amount of games this season, Steph Curry. And the Warriors, once again, have been inconsistent at best. And now they've had a little run here, and I believe they've made it all the way to, like, I think, the 6th seed or something like that. The Warriors, where, like, not too long ago, they were in the 12th seed. But that's more about how bad the NBA has been, or how bad the Western Conference has been. I told you, the Western Conference took a giant step backwards this year, guys. And I said that after, like, the first month of the season. I could tell. You could just see it. So once again, Steve Kerr speaking real emotional here, and this guy called Steph Curry the most skilled player of all time, the most skilled basketball player of all time. And I'm really getting tired of this stuff, man. I really am, because once again, all Steve Kerr had to say to give Steph Curry some props, to big his boy up, to give him some shine, all he had to say was, to me, Steph Curry's the most skilled player of his era. That's all you gotta say, man. And right there, there's nothing to argue with. Even if you want to argue that someone else was more skilled than Steph Curry in his era, at least that's more of a statement that's, based in reality. When you say Steph Curry is the most skilled basketball player of all time, that's not even close. There's no reality where that's close. There's no facts to support that or back that up. There just isn't. I don't know where Steve Kerr's getting this from. Once again, I guarantee you Steve Kerr's focusing on what? The offensive side of the ball. Because that's all anyone focuses on right now. Steve Kerr, what the hell are you talking about, man? Can anyone tell me that Steph Curry got skills on defense? Does he have skills on defense? I'm pretty sure basketball requires you to play offense and defense. It requires you to give the effort. Not going to be good maybe, but you still got to give the effort on both sides of the ball. Not saying Steph Curry don't give effort, but once again, where are his skills on the defensive end? He has no defensive skills. I'm so tired of people throwing the word skills out when they only focus on dribbling and shooting. That's not skills. That's a small part of the game, dribbling and shooting. There are many, many, many other aspects of basketball, guys. Rebounding, playmaking, scoring, shooting, passing, dribbling, defense, leadership. All of these things are different aspects, guys. Your impact are different aspects of skills in the NBA and how you can impact the game in the NBA. I do not believe Steph Curry is anywhere close to being the most skilled player of all time. I mean, these guys, I can't keep up with all these statements. It doesn't make any sense. I thought Kevin Durant was the most skilled offensive player of all time. I thought Kyrie Irving was the most skilled offensive player of all time. Now it's Steph Curry. Who is it? All these guys are the most skilled players of all time? Don't make any sense. And once again, I tell you guys, how can these guys be the most skilled players of all time when they're held to the lowest standard in NBA's history? Steve Kerr won't mention that? Steve Kerr just complained about I just did a video on this, did I not? Steve Kerr was just complaining about the NBA does not call any travels. They don't call any travels or carries. He was complaining about this just the other day. Now you're telling me that Steph Curry, who plays in this same era of NBA that you're just complaining about, he's the most skilled player. But you just admitted they don't call travels and carries. And it's not just for other guys, and they call for Steph Curry. They don't call for anybody, Steve Kerr. You just were complaining about this, but you're going to sit there and say with a straight face that Steph Curry's the most skilled player of all time when you just said the NBA doesn't call travels and carries. So obviously they're not playing basketball out there, and that's what we've been talking about, the fans. Steve Kerr, I told you in that video, I agree with him on that. The NBA should be officiating the game to a higher standard. Because once again, if these guys are that skilled, then they should be getting held to a higher standard, not a lower standard. So how can Steph Curry be the most skilled player in NBA's history when he plays in an era that's not held to any standards according to someone like Steve Kerr? And many of us know that's the facts. So Steve Kerr contradicts himself just the next day, the next time you have a post-game press conference, you contradict yourself. I told you, these guys don't make any sense. They can never stay consistent. They're all over the place. These guys are so inconsistent with their takes, with their opinions. It's a joke, guys. It's laughable. Once again, they're emotional. Steve Kerr's being emotional about Steph Curry instead of being level-headed and being factual and being honest and saying, I believe Steph Curry is the most skilled player of his era. That's all you had to say, Steve Kerr. End of the statement. No argument from me. I got nothing to say about it. You think Steph Curry's the most skilled player of his era? I'm not going to argue with that once again, because we can compare all the other players of his era to the same standards. So if you want to argue as Kevin Durant or Kyrie Irving, if you want to argue as LeBron James, the most skilled player, or you want to argue with somebody else, Nikola Jokic or SGA or Luka Doncic, whoever you think is the most skilled player over the last 10, 15 years, whoever you think it is, the last era or so, whoever you want to say it is, once again, you can judge them and hold them across the same standard because they're all playing in the same era. You cannot say Steph Curry is the most skilled player of all time. Once again, you've said all time now. Now you've opened the door to all the other eras. So once again, to Steph Curry to be scrutinized against all the other eras. When we do that, Steph Curry's not being held to the same standard, man. Those guys were held to higher standards. So let's think about Steph Curry here and the skills of Steph Curry. What is Steve Kerr talking about? Once again, Steve Kerr is narrow-sighted. He's got the blinders on. He's only thinking about dribbling and shoot. That's all he's thinking about. Oh, Steph Curry, the most skilled player of all time because he can dribble and shoot. There are a lot of guys that can dribble and shoot, Steve Kerr, that also did other things at a high level. Steph Curry doesn't do those things at a high level. Once again, if we talk about all the players in NBA's history, Steph Curry is nowhere near the most skilled player of all time. But if we focus on just the point guards in NBA's history, is Steph Curry more skilled than Magic Johnson was? Once again, can Steph Curry dribble the ball better than Magic Johnson? Yes, perhaps in this era of NBA. Would Steph Curry be able to dribble the ball, all those moves, and do all those things in more stricter enforcement of the rules? No, he wouldn't be able to do a lot of stuff. Not saying that Steph Curry can't dribble. He's one of the great dribblers in NBA's history. No doubt about that. But when you're being held to a different standard and you're not allowed to put your hand under the basketball completely and all these things that these guys are allowed to do now, you're allowed to take 2, 3 extra steps now. Once again, that takes away from your skills. Don't you need more skills to go against physical defenses? If defense were allowed to hand check Steph Curry all up and down the court, allowed to use their form on Steph Curry all over the court, allowed to bump him and beat him up on screens and all these things all over the court, would Steph Curry be as skilled, Steve Kerr? No, he would not. That's why I say, to me, Steph Curry in the 90s is not winning MVPs in the 90s, guys. Is he a great player in the 90s? Yeah, he's a great player, man. But he's not winning MVPs. He damn sure not winning back-to-back MVPs in the 90s. And there's no way he's going to be labeled as one of the most skilled players in the league at that time. Would he be seen as more skilled than Michael Jordan? Hell no, man. Would he be seen as more skilled than Hakeem Olajuwon or David Robinson? I keep hearing all this Scottie Pippen talk. Is he more skilled than Scottie Pippen? Like, these are things we got to think about because, once again, when we talk about these other players, they had skills on both sides of the ball. Steph Curry does his skills. All his skills are always relegated to the offensive side. That's what Steve Kerr's talking about, offense, because you can't say that Steph Curry has skills in any other areas of the game. And once again, I'm not tearing down Steph Curry. Steph Curry's a great player, probably top 20, probably. I told you he's not nowhere near a top 10 player to me. Just not. And I've broken this down before. But if you told me he was a top 10, 15 to 20 in that range somewhere, okay, I don't really have a problem with that. But to me, Steph Curry is not the most skilled player in NBA's history, guys. Like I said, when we talk about dribbling and shooting, Steph Curry, one of the all-time great dribblers. But once again, guys like Isaiah Thomas, guys like Tim Hardaway, guys like Magic Johnson, like I said, guys like Kevin Johnson, some of these guys that were known as ball handlers, dribblers of the basketball, they were being held to a higher standard. Jason Kidd, Steve Nash, some of these other guys that played in the late 90s into the early 2000s, you were being held to a different standard of officiating. It wasn't the same as the 50s and the 60s, but it was a lot more stringent than it is now. For the last 10 seasons, these guys are literally allowed to do whatever they want on the court as far as dribbling and taking extra steps. No one really cares about that kind of stuff. But they're quick to blow a whistle if you touch somebody. Once again, this is the era that Steph Curry plays in, but Steve Kerr's going to tell you the most skilled player of all time when he's not even playing in the most skilled era of all time. The least fundamentally sound era of all time. But that makes Steph Curry the most skilled player of all time. Once again, Steve Kerr's not going to focus on defense here. Defense. So let's think about it. Steph Curry, one of the great three-point shooters of all time. The greatest three-point shooter of all time, a lot of people say. I heard Steve Kerr the other day say that to him, Steph Curry's the greatest shooter of all time. Steph Curry's not the greatest shooter of all time. Once again, I'm not taking Steph Curry in a last-second shot over Michael Jordan, guys. When we talk about being a shooter, once again, Steph Curry's a great three-point shooter. He can knock down those half-court shots, no doubt, man, better than anyone else, because those long-range threes, he's got that all sewn up. But are those the kind of shots you're going to take at the end of a game? Are those typical shots in a game? No. Once again, it's what we laugh about. This is not NBA basketball. No one's taking those shots in the 80s and the 90s, early 2000s. In this week era NBA, Steph Curry's allowed to run all over the court and chuck up a lot of these deep threes, man. You're not winning games like that, though. You got to have an overall game. So once again, Steph Curry has the ability to go to the hole. He's a really good finisher, Steph Curry. At the rim, under the rim. Great finisher at the hole, Steph Curry. You think about him and Kyrie Irving, probably the best finishers under the rim over the last 10 seasons in the NBA. Great finisher, Steph Curry. And he has the outside shooting ability. But when we talk about he's the greatest shooter of all time, no. Once again, I'm not taking him over Michael Jordan. I'm not taking Steph Curry over Larry Bird. Would I take Steph Curry over Kobe Bryant for a last-second shot? Because clutch has to go with your shooting ability. Is Steph Curry one of the top 5, top 10 most clutch players of all time? I don't believe so. But he's the greatest shooter of all time, but I wouldn't take him for a last-second shot. So once again, how really great are you at shooting? We're doing shooting, not three-pointers. We're doing shooting. I don't believe Steph Curry's the greatest shooter of all time. Give me Michael Jordan all day, every day over Steph Curry. Like I said, if I need a game-winning shot, I don't care where it is. Give me Michael Jordan. He's proven it. Steph Curry hasn't proven to be a knockdown clutch performer like that, the highest level. He's knocked down some big shots. He's been clutch in his career, but I'm not putting Steph Curry in the top 5, top 10 most clutch players in NBA's history, man. No way in hell. Once again, so when we think about those kinds of things, shooting, he's a great three-point shooter, but he's not the greatest shooter of all time. Maybe the greatest three-point shooter of all time, but not the greatest shooter of all time, man. Once again, man, there have been other players who have made, much more high-level shots and the much more pressure-packed situations and big-time moments than Steph Curry has. They've proven it. Steph Curry has not been proven like that. He's been inconsistent at best in those moments. Once again, we talked about the dribbling. Steph Curry is obviously a great dribbler of the basketball. Once again, but in these weak, enforcement of the rules. So, yes, Steph Curry's one of the great dribblers in NBA's history. Absolutely. But he's not being held to the same standard of Magic Johnson or Bob Cousy or Oscar Robertson, or Jerry West, an Isaiah Thomas, the great ball handlers, like Tim Hardaway. Some of these guys that dribbled the ball in other eras where it was a little bit more stringent. It's not the same, guys. Those are the facts. And I ain't knock on him. Passing the basketball. He's a point guard, right? We all understand that. I told you, Steph Curry to me is a combo guard. He's a mix between a shooting guard and a point guard, right? He plays the point guard position, but he shoots the ball like a shooting guard, right? What is he averaging? 17, 18 shots a game for his career, something like that. That's shooting the ball. You're a shooting guard. We get that. But he plays the point guard position on paper. He's a combo guard. We get that. Guys like Derrick Rose and the Russell Westbrooks, like the Steve Francis and the Stephon Marburys, these guys are more shooter than they are passer. So when we think about Steph Curry's passing ability, not saying he can't pass the ball. Steph Curry has a very good passing ability / playmaking ability. But if we think about just passing the basketball as a point guard position, he's not one of the elite passers at the point guard position. He's not up there with the Magic Johnsons, the Jason Kidds, the Oscar Robertsons, the Isaiah Thomases, the Steve Nashes, right? The Bob Cousy's, like the great point guards that can really pass the rock. He's not up there with those guys, Jason Williams. Like I said, it's just some of these other great passers of the basketball. Once again, I ain't knock on Steph Curry, but he's not one of the most skilled passers in NBA's history. But Steve Kerr's he's the most skilled player in NBA's history, not one of the most skilled passers. Once again, let's think about the playmaking ability of Steph Curry. What's he? A great playmaker for Steph Curry, because Steph Curry allows other players to be successful because he doesn't need the ball in his hands, right? So once again, Steph Curry could come off screens. He can move without the basketball. He allows the other players around him to have roles. And we all appreciate that about Steph Curry. He's a great player. And this is what we talk about. Steph Curry, right? He does more with less than someone like LeBron James does because he allows his teammates to, once again, have a role and to play that role. So he could play with guys like Draymond Green and Klay Thompson, the Andrew Wiggins, right? He could bring in a Jimmy Butler. You could have the Gary Payton the thirds and, the Podzimskis or whatever these guys' names are. You could have the Kevon Looney's and the Andre Iguodala's and the Harrison Barneses and the Sean Livingstons. You can have all these guys play around Steph Curry because he's a great playmaker like that. He allows those other guys. He creates space for other players. So guys like Draymond Green, the Klay Thompsons, they've benefited. I've talked about this. Steph Curry made these guys Hall of Fame worthy because of his playmaking, the gravity of Steph Curry, the way that he has people watching him at all times. So once again, Steph Curry's a great playmaker. No doubt about it. The impact of Steph Curry is there. He has the impact, Steph Curry. Once again, an impactful player because he does not need the ball in his hands. However, when we talk about impact, and once again, we talk about other areas of basketball, let's think about the defensive end now. Once again, which is like the glaring, red flag of Steph Curry, right, is defense. And once again, we're not saying that Steph Curry doesn't try to play defense or give the effort. He doesn't stand around and walk back like LeBron James does. But he doesn't have any defensive skills. Right? There's nothing you would point to and be, oh, man, Steph Curry got some really defensive skills. And we get it. He led the league in steals one time. That's great for Steph Curry, man. Once again, playing the passing lanes and doing those kinds of things. No doubt about it, man. Great thing. Once again, in this era of NBA, it's a little bit different. Would Steph Curry lead the league in steals in the 90s or the 80s or the 2000s? No, he wouldn't even come close, guys. Not even close in those eras. So we get it. Steph Curry is present on defense. He gives effort on defense. He doesn't have any impact on defense. That's what it comes down to. There's no defensive impact because he's frail, he's small, right? He doesn't have the size or the stature to really have an impact that way, body guys up or be an intimidating shot blocker or any of those things like that. But he doesn't really play man-on-ball defense like that. He has no impact on defense, right? So other guys have had to play defense for Steph Curry, right? They got to cover up Steph Curry on the defensive end. He's a liability on defense. He doesn't have an impact, no skills on defense. So guys like Draymond Green, the Klay Thompsons, the Andrew Bogus, the Andre Iguodala's, all these guys are the guys that have to play defense for Steph Curry. Right behind him. No doubt, man. He does other things. But once again, it goes to skills. Defense is a part of the game, Steve Kerr. And Steph Curry doesn't have the skills like that. But he won't mention that in the post-game press conference. How about rebounding the basketball, which is also a skill? Rebounding is a skill. Is it not, Steve Kerr? And now, listen, Steph Curry gets rebounds. We get it. In this era where guys are chucking up all these shots, Steph Curry averages about 4 or 5 rebounds a game, which is really good. That's good average. Once again, in this era, that's why I said Steve Kerr should say the most skilled player for this era, if you're going to say that. The rebounds in this era are a joke. We know that. We've covered this. But Steph Curry's offensive rebound numbers aren't like that. So once again, we talk about the point guard position. We're not going to judge him rebounding versus the big men. But let's think about the other point guards in NBA's history. Is Steph Curry a better rebounder than Russell Westbrook? No, he's not. Is he a better rebounder than Magic Johnson? No, he's not even close, guys. Look at the offensive rebounding numbers for Magic Johnson. They're out of the world. Out of this world compared to Steph Curry. Once again, is he the rebounder of a Jason Kidd? Not even close, guys. Not even close. Where these guys had a battle against big men, legit big men for these rebounds. Once again, look at the offensive rebound numbers for Jason Kidd. It's off the charts compared to what Steph Curry's doing. And it's not saying that Steph Curry doesn't try to rebound or rebound at all. I'm not saying he's the worst rebounding point guard in the history of the game. But he's not elite. He's not skilled rebounder. Jason Kidd was a skilled rebounder at that position, guys. Russell Westbrook gets more rebounds than Steph Curry does in this weak era. Once again, Magic Johnson was a skilled rebounder, right? He had the size, but also gave the effort there. So a lot of these guys are greater rebounders than Steph Curry was. Once again, Steph Curry doesn't have any rebounding skills per se. And like we said, you're in this era. So the numbers rebounding-wise are a little more inflated for Steph Curry than if he was playing in the 90s, right? Those are the facts. So let's think about leadership now, guys. And I'm going to end it on the leadership. Because leadership, once again, is a forgotten skill. Guys, remember, leadership is a skill. I don't think people think or consider leadership a skill. I don't know why. Remember, people go to class. They go to school to learn to become a leader, become better leaders, guys. Because leadership is a skill that you can hone. You can work on it. Now, that's not to say that you're going to be an all-time great leader because you go to class or you learn from other great leaders how to be a better leader. Doesn't mean you're going to be a great leader, right? Because a lot of great leaders are born, right? Some people are born with that innate leadership quality. They're just meant to lead people, right? Because they're out there doing their thing. Some people are born with that stuff. We get it. Someone like Michael Jordan, some of these other guys, they were born leaders, man. Leadership comes in different ways, right? The way that Tim Duncan led the team versus the way that Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan led their team is completely different. And I'm not saying that Steph Curry has zero leadership. He's not the worst leader. Once again, in NBA's history, he's not James Harden level leadership, or some of these other guys like that. But once again, Steph Curry was the guy that allowed Kevin Durant to come to his team. He actually wanted Kevin Durant to come there. That goes to his leadership. You're supposed to be a leader of the Golden State Warriors. Why do you want Kevin Durant coming to your team? Don't you have any self-pride? Don't you have any self-respect? I wouldn't want Kevin Durant to come to my team. He's another all-time great player. It's my team, man. It's my team. I don't want you, anyone else. This is my team. I'm going to do things on my team, man. I don't want no help. I don't want no one else. But Steph Curry allowed Kevin Durant to make that move. They allowed that. That does knock on Steph Curry's leadership to me. Once again, a knock on his, not saying that Steph Curry's as bad as Kevin Durant's leadership, but it's a knock on his leadership. The way that Draymond Green's been allowed to sabotage the Golden State Warriors over the several years that he's been on that team, that goes to Steph Curry's lack of leadership. Never getting in Draymond Green's face publicly. I've never seen Steph Curry get in his face publicly or not do it enough that I remember it. Once again, to get in Draymond Green's butt or to go to the management, the ownership. You're Steph Curry. You got cachet. But yo, man, we got to get rid of this dude. Now, I know Steph Curry knows that they need Draymond Green. We get all of that. He's a key member of the team. But once again, Draymond Green's been sabotaging the Warriors for several years now. I told you, they won that championship in 2022. 2023, I believe it was. 2022, I think it was, right? Despite Draymond Green and his antics and all the things that he doesn't do out there. So once again, you have to take the good with the bad with Draymond Green. But once again, it goes to Steph Curry's leadership. Remember the Kevin Durant, Draymond Green fight? Where was Steph Curry to take the charge of this situation and be, yo, let's get rid of Draymond Green and keep Kevin Durant here? They didn't do that, though. Once again, remember Draymond Green punched that guy Jordan Poole in the face? Where is Steph Curry's leadership? Where's Steve Kerr's leadership? They don't have leadership out there. So once again, that's a skill that Steph Curry is not a lead in. Once again, I'm not saying that Steph Curry's the worst leader in history, has no leadership. I'm talking about when he talks about Steph Curry, the most skilled player of all time, leadership is a skilled Steve Kerr. Do you not realize this? Is he a more skilled leader than some of the guys I mentioned? A Larry Bird, a Bill Russell, a Jerry West, a Michael Jordan, a Kobe Bryant, a Tim Duncan, a Hakeem Olajuwon. Some of these great leaders, is he a greater leader than those guys? Magic Johnson? No, he's nowhere near those guys. They had leadership skills. They had leadership qualities that Steph Curry does not have. That he never went and learned and developed. Once again, it's a skill you can develop, leadership, guys. You can become better at being a leader. You can learn to become a better leader. Doesn't mean you're going to be a great leader, but you could be a better leader. Once again, it's a skill you can work on, guys. I remember when I was in the military, leadership was a big thing. Once again, so these are some of the things that we have to think about, guys. When you think about Steph Curry overall, he's so skilled. He has 4 All-NBA first teams. I don't want to say only because that's impressive to have 4 All-NBA first teams. But if for Steve Kerr to say he's the most skilled player of all time and the greatest shooter of all time, you're telling me the greatest shooter and the most skilled player of all time has 4 All-NBA first teams? 4? When I told you guys before, Jason Kidd had 5. 5 All-NBA first teams. So Jason Kidd has more All-NBA first teams playing in a much tougher era at the same position than Steph Curry does. But J. Kidd does not know no back-to-back MVPs trophies to show for it, even though we all know J. Kidd should have won the MVP. I believe that was 03. He should have won the MVP over Tim Duncan that season. He just finished right behind Tim Duncan by a couple of votes. I think Jason Kidd should have won the MVP that season. I think, don't say he was robbed. Right, Tim Duncan's a great player, but I think Jason Kidd was more deserving than Tim Duncan was that season. What he was doing on that New Jersey Nets team? Are you kidding me? So I think we can all agree that Jason Kidd's an MVP caliber worthy player who never won an MVP. Steph Curry has 2 MVPs, 4 All-NBA first. Jason Kidd has 5 All-NBA first, going against guys like Kobe Bryant, Allen Iverson. Like I said, a bunch of other guys at that guard position. Gary Payton, the John Stocktons were still making All-NBAs into the early 2000s. So Steph Curry was not making All-NBA first teams because of guys like Russell Westbrook, guys like James Harden, guys like Damian Lillard were making All-NBA first teams over Steph Curry throughout these years, over the last 15 seasons, guys. And once again, knock on Steph Curry to make 4 All-NBA first teams is impressive. But you're the most skilled player of all time. You should have 7, 8, 9, 10 All-NBA first teams, man. That's what I'm saying. Like, it doesn't add up like that, guys. He can't sniff the All-NBA first teams over Magic Johnson. I mean, hell, Luka Doncic already has more All-NBA first teams at the same position in the same era than Steph Curry does. And I don't believe that Luka Doncic should have all those All-NBA first teams since he's been in the league. But once again, he still has more on his resume than Steph Curry. So like I said, if Steve Kerr would have said Steph Curry is the most skilled player of his era, I got no problem with that, Steve Kerr, because you're probably right about that. If you told me Steph Curry is the greatest player of his era, I got no problem with that either. I told you, I think that Steph Curry is the greatest player of his era, of the 2010s. I believe it's Steph Curry and then everyone else. But I do not believe Steph Curry is anywhere near being the most skilled player of all time. I just don't see it. Like I said, Steph Curry doesn't play both sides of the ball like that. So Hakeem Olajuwon's offensive skills, his footwork, his skills on offense, and his skills on the defensive end, to me, trump Steph Curry's offensive skills, his shooting, dribbling ability, his ability to finish at the rim. Once again, you're a one-sided player. And I'm not saying that Steph Curry doesn't try to play defense. He's standing around walking, but you don't have the impact. You don't have skills on the defensive end. He just doesn't, guys. Like I said, he's not one of the most skilled passers in NBA's history. He does what he does. He's a great dribbler and a great shooter. We all know that, man. But the defense, the rebound, the leadership, these kinds of things, the durability of Steph Curry, right? He just can't play games like that. He's always often injured. I mean, go look at Steph Curry's career, guys. How many times he's played all 82 games? I don't believe he's ever played all 82 games in his career. And once again, a lot of the seasons he's missing a lot of games, like this year. Because once again, he's frail. So in the 90s or the 80s, some early 2000s, when guys can physically beat you a little bit more, lean on you and hit you and stuff, do you guys really believe that Steph Curry's going to last for a whole season, all these years? I just don't see it. These guys are allowed to extend their careers now because the game is so soft. So you can last longer. Guys didn't play 15, 18, 20 years back in the day because you're physically being beat on. And the conditions you're playing in are a lot harder. They're harsher conditions. So you didn't last as long. Those are the facts, guys. I mean, look at NFL quarterbacks, for example. The game got a lot softer for the NFL quarterbacks, so these guys can last longer. You guys think Tom Brady would have been able to play all those years if he was playing in the 80s and the 90s his whole career? Hell no, man. He would have been concussed multiple times. He wouldn't have been medically able to. You guys remember having Troy Aikman, guys like Steve Young? These guys took beatings, man. Beatings. Beatings from these guys. It's a different era of a league, man. Once again, Lamar Jackson can do what he does out here in this era of NFL because guys can't really rock you like the way they could do back in the day. Lamar Jackson ain't doing these option plays in the 80s and 90s, guys. Just not happening. They didn't do those kinds of things. You get broke up out there. Broke up. All this crappy stuff that Lamar Jackson does where he fakes like he's going to go out of bounds and then hits the defender guy, that wouldn't happen back in them days because those guys wouldn't be pulling up on the sideline. They would have been waiting to wreck you, man. So these guys say they take advantage of the rules, the way the game is played. Same thing for Steph Curry. So once again, Steve Kerr tells you that Steph Curry is the most skilled player of all time a day after he just complained about the NBA never calling travels and carry violations. So then how skilled are these guys, Steve Kerr? That's the whole point we've been talking about. If these guys are so skilled, they should be held to a higher standard, but they're not. So I can't say they're more skilled than any of the guys in the past. And definitely the most skilled players of all time. There's no argument for this. I told you, Steve Kerr didn't give you any evidence, any facts to support this. Once again, emotional statements from these guys. That's all they are, is emotions, man. You guys know the deal, man. I'll catch you guys on the next one.